History is a chain of cause and effect, but if we pull one crucial link, the entire sequence collapses. In our timeline, the claim of an empty tomb sparked a global movement. In this alternate reality, the stone in Jerusalem remains sealed. Without a resurrection, the dream of the rabbi from Nazareth ends on a Roman cross. His followers quietly pack up their grief and scatter. Peter returns to his fishing nets. John fades away. The movement shrinks to a footnote in the bloody archives of Judea. Because the disciples have no triumphant return to preach, the radical split between traditional Judaism and this obscure new sect never happens. The teachings of Jesus are simply absorbed back into traditional Pharisaic thought. That single unbroken seal leaves the movement anchored to its graveyard. Without the spark of a reported miracle, the ideology never gains the momentum required to jump borders or centuries. The immediate effect plays out in the heart of the Jewish world. Without the rise of a highly evangelical Christian movement threatening Rome's authority, the catastrophic tensions of 70 AD are managed differently. In this timeline, the Second Temple is still standing centuries later. Rome itself sidesteps its greatest internal disruption. Christianity never conquers the empire from the inside, meaning the gods of Olympus live on, their temples well-funded and central to public life. Lacking the love thy neighbor ethics of the Sermon on the Mount, Roman leadership leans entirely into Stoicism. The moral compass of the elite becomes rooted in strict duty, logic, and absolute emotional detachment. By surviving the ideological challenge of universal brotherhood, Rome guarantees a future structured solely around natural hierarchy. The strong rule, the weak serve, and gladiatorial combat remains a staple of social control. The year 312 AD passes without Emperor Constantine seeing a cross in the sky. He never signs the Edict of Milan, leaving the Roman Empire a fragile, decentralized mosaic of local pagan cults, with no unifying Catholic Church to guide Europe. This fractured West creates a vacuum. Sassanid Persia and Han China aggressively expand, becoming dominant superpowers. Later, early Islamic movements from Arabia encounter fragmented pagan tribes instead of a cohesive Christian presence. Far north, Vikings expand unchecked into pagan Britain, preserving their fierce warrior culture. The geopolitical center of gravity slides entirely away from the Mediterranean. The unified Western world, built on a shared Judeo-Christian framework, simply fails to materialize. Without the religious riots that destroyed vast amounts of ancient texts, the magnificent Great Library of Alexandria survives. Greek and Egyptian breakthroughs in math and science are preserved, meaning the intellectual stagnation of the Dark Ages never occurs. The Mediterranean remains a secure circuit of commerce. Merchant fleets move between Alexandria, Rome, and Carthage for centuries, their routes determined by market demand instead of religious partition. Free from 1,000 years of religious dogma slowing down scientific inquiry, scholars design early steam engines and advanced gears. Humanity hits the Industrial Revolution almost a millennium ahead of schedule. But there is a catch. Without a monolithic church to rebel against, there is no Martin Luther and no intellectual explosion of the Reformation. Education and literacy remain locked behind the doors of a wealthy elite. While technological growth accelerates, it stays rooted in the classical objective, mastery over the physical world. Innovation is judged by its immediate application to the state or the household, as the pursuit of knowledge remains focused on pragmatic results rather than the discovery of abstract, universal laws. Fast forward to the modern era, or the year 2779 from the founding of Rome. Humanity is launching rockets into the solar system, but the architecture of the society is brutalist, efficient, and spiritually hollow. Political evolution remains bound to the Roman legal code, which recognizes the citizen, but not the individual. In this world, protections are a gift from the state, earned through service or status, rather than an inherent quality shared by every human being. Healthcare operates as a calculus of state asset management. Hospitals triage patients strictly based on their productive value to the empire, and euthanasia is the expected standard for the weak or disabled. Slavery, once a grim reality of ancient Rome, evolves into a sanitized, high-tech, permanent fixture of the global economy. Without abolitionist movements driven by the idea of universal brotherhood, nobody questions it. The Christian undercurrent that softens modern public policy is stripped away. The greatest altruism is viewed as a dangerous mental illness, and empathy is systematically bred out of the cultural DNA. You won't find the Red Cross here. The institutionalized system of poor relief, hospitals, and orphanages pioneered by the early church does not exist. A stranger suffering in the street is passed by without a second glance. The greatest novels and symphonies ring hollow. Instead of exploring the redemptive arc, human art is obsessed entirely with survival and the finality of the grave. The most recognizable symbol in the history of the world is completely missing from skylines and necklaces. The cross remains exactly what the Roman state designed it to be, a terrifying piece of executioner's lumber. This timeline demonstrates that a world can be more advanced, more stable, and more efficient, yet remain unrecognizable to us. The absence of that one empty tomb didn't just stop a religion, it redirected the path of every ethical instinct we consider modern.